You don't even know what our video numbers are. I gotta check that out one of these days.
Yeah.
Gary's doing his best Palpatine for those of you on Rumble and YouTube right now. It's interesting you're right underneath the Empire poster too, so it's kind of fitting at this point.
Well, we've always said he's the evil master for Terra,
Yes.
so...
Yes. Okay, are we ready to record?
Yes.
People are killing me. Okay. And let me get the audio. Alright, here we go. Hey folks, welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have with me people in our studio, including Emperor Palpatine himself. I have with me Austin, the Inquisitor.
Hello.
I have with me Gary Stud.
That's me.
And I am Bob Chrisman, your host. So today we're going to talk about several things before we talk about the very first episode of Wandavision, which, yes, we are now moved on from The Mandalorian. Unfortunately, we have finished Season 2, and we got to move on, and we're kind of in between. We're going to cover Wandavision, then we're going to cover Falcon and Winter Soldier before we get to Bad Batch. So there's lots for us to cover, and we might even cover Loki later on. I don't know. We haven't decided beyond Falcon and Winter Soldier and Bad Batch what we're going to do next. But Disney Plus seems to definitely be giving us some things to look at, that's for sure. Even though I really want to cancel my subscription for certain reasons, but I cannot because our podcast kind of relies upon it. So we're going to talk about several things today. Before we get to the first episode of WandaVision, we're going to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong, which we have now officially all seen on HBO Max. We're then going to talk about the rumors of Keanu Reeves joining the MCU, what character he might play, and what that might mean for the Marvel MCU. And then we're going to talk about a rumor that Kathleen Kennedy is giving up Star Wars and may hand it over to Jon Favreau willingly. Okay, so let's get right to it. We want to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a movie that just came out, about 3 weeks ago now at this point? 4 weeks ago by the time we're reporting this? It is a sequel to the Godzilla King of the Monsters and Kong Skull Island series.
It says released on March 21st, 24th, 2021.
It's the fourth film in Legendary's Monsterverse. By the way, it is also the 36th film in the Godzilla franchise, so you have a long catching up to do. The 12th film in the King Kong franchise, and the fourth Godzilla film to be completely produced by a Hollywood studio, meaning that it's not actually being produced by a Japanese studio.
Wasn't one of the other ones Zilla, and they just
I think there was one titled Zilla somewhere along the way. So the film stars Alexander Skarsgård, Millie Bobby Brown, Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, Shun Oguri. I apologize. Isa Gonzalez, Julian Dennison, Lance Reddick, Kyle Chandler, and Demian Bichir. In the film, Kong clashes with Godzilla as humans lure the giant ape into the Hollow Earth to retrieve a power source for a weapon to stop Godzilla's mysterious rampages. So, let's talk about this a little bit, about what was going on in this film. First off, Gary, let me start with you. What part of this film was like your favorite part of this film? Like, what part really kind of drew you into it?
Godzilla himself.
Godzilla, just seeing Godzilla himself? Yeah. Okay.
In the battle on the aircraft carrier was awesome.
I'll admit that battle was very interesting. Of the battles we saw, that was probably the most, at least to me, most interesting battle of all the ones that we saw. Austin, what was the one part you liked? Like, what part drew you in?
The 2-on-1 combo against what I can only describe as Mecha Godzilla Ghidorah, because it really wasn't Godzilla. Because it was using a different head of the monster, and I'm guessing it's Ghidorah because of the shape.
What that was the Pacific Rim telecommunication between brains and the neck that's there.
Yeah.
And they're using Ghidorah's head as that because
that was Ghidorah's head, correct? Okay.
We established it was Ghidorah. We just couldn't figure out, because after a certain surge or something happened, then the bot can think by itself.
I guess my question was, why did they choose Ghidorah, not Mothra, or Ghidorah and not, you know what I mean? Like, they had options.
Well, because that's the only head that was available.
Yeah, I guess. That's true. I'll agree with Gary, and one of my favorite parts was actually the whole battle in the ocean. I thought that was one of the better parts of the movie.
It was definitely interesting to see Kong out of his element and getting his butt kicked.
Yeah, that was
underwater being choked by Godzilla's tail. As Godzilla's like, "You're going to the water with me. Come with me."
The whole part where Kong outright punches him with everything he's got, and just doesn't even stagger. Godzilla.
Yeah.
Godzilla comes back up and bitch slaps him.
Yeah.
The Godzilla looked at him like, "That tickled."
and knocks Kong for a loop.
I'll admit I kind of MST3K'd this thing because it did get to a point where it's kind of like, all right, this is getting ridiculous, and I need to start saying something because it just looks ridiculous.
It was
now.
awesome. You and I had a great time doing it.
It's a good thing my wife wasn't around because she would have been like, "Shut up!" But we couldn't help it. I know if Gary and I had been in the theater together watching it, we would have been MST3K.
You would have been Statler and Waldorf MST3K.
I gave Godzilla a voice. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's put it this way. When I first watched it, I was doing my WWE commentary.
Oh, okay. Oh, he smacks him down. Oh, yeah. I think I said something about like I think that was a clothesline, or something like that. Yeah, because there were a couple of clotheslines in there, and there definitely was a TNT jump on King Kong at some point.
So what you're saying is the only thing you needed was a cage fight with a chair.
Well, I think
they came at the end.
Right.
It was a triple threat match.
Right. And actually, the buildings.
RoboCop shows up.
The buildings turned into the ladders that they used to beat each other with. Like that's yeah.
Oh no, he's got a chair.
And the one thing I liked was the fact that I feel Kong knew he was
outmatched,
outpowered everything.
Yeah,
the whole way. He was scared.
I think that's why he was so scared about getting put on the boat. like I think if Kong had the option, he'd been like, "No, don't put me on the boat."
Kong's looking at the water, going,
"No.
This isn't safe, guys. He's down there."
So let me ask you guys this: what part of the movie did you not like? Was there any part of the movie you didn't like?
The whole Middle Earth.
I was gonna say the whole Hollow Earth.
Yeah, you didn't like the
thing.
Hollow Middle Earth thing at all.
Yeah.
Austin, was there anything like that you didn't like?
The Hollow Earth thing, because it looked like what's Marvel's Savage Land. It looked like a weird alien Savage Land. Like now we have Kong's Savage Land where he can wander in peace.
I think I'd have liked it better if they showed more Titans.
In that land? Yeah, I agree with you.
All it looked like was a bunch of mysterious monsters, like they took Jurassic animals and merged them with mammals.
I was just disappointed there was no Gamera in that land. I mean, really. They just didn't
have a
different franchise.
I know, I'm kidding.
Just have while we're wandering through and he's killing that like dinosaur flounder thing. You just have a flying turtle shell.
They didn't even need to have him battle anything other than the few that did attack. Everything else would have been all right.
And then you needed to have the little Japanese boy next to Millie Bobby Brown going, Gamera!
Freaking.
It just so happened that he had his own throne.
Yeah, right? Well, it makes him king of the beasts, See, that was the part I was bothered by, I was going to get to. I really did not like the whole, we're going after a power source that nobody knows about. Yet again, we're after fuel or power, right?
It's
once
Mad Max again.
And so, what does Kong come up with to fight Godzilla? Because there was no other way to make Kong effective against Godzilla. No. Instead, we give him Stormbreaker made out of the back of Kong in order
back of Godzilla.
Or back of Godzilla, excuse me. Back of Godzilla. Okay. In order to make him powerful enough to be able to step up to Godzilla.
From what I read, the bone handle is from one of the brain scullers, or what do they call them?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And a fin from an older Godzilla.
Okay.
And if you did notice it, he did manage to kill one of the Godzilla creatures.
Right.
Because that's what he pulled the axe out.
Right. But you get what I'm saying, right? That just seemed a little, I don't know.
We gotta level him up a little bit. So
part of me wanted to be like, is he worthy? Was Kong really worthy? I just.
Or is he just lifting?
I also didn't like the fact that we took that company, and I'm forgetting the name of the company now.
Oh.
that
Essentially,
Apex, thank you. And
It's
and we made
InGen.
Apex InGen, basically. We made Apex in that basically they were doing whatever they could to manipulate the creatures to get what they wanted, which was this energy source that they were looking for. Now I get it. The whole point of the movie is to show humans being the greedy little bastards that we are, and then we need energy, and then we're going to use whatever we can, including Godzilla and King Kong, in order to get to our energy. But I don't know. I didn't like that part of the movie. There could have been a better storyline there. I just felt like that was a really craptastic storyline to
cop
throw in
out?
there.
A
Yeah,
cop-out?
cop out.
like,
Well, again, okay. The only thing that mattered, big monster.
True. The only thing that really matters. And I kind of pointed that out to Austin. I'm like, oh, there, Kong fell over again. There's another 60,000 Japanese people dead. Oh, well. It's definitely not a Batman Superman kind of movie where, anybody cares about any human life at all.
well, they were trying
just
to
about the
evacuate the
Titans.
city. They were trying to evacuate the city.
But
You saw
again,
that.
and I'm just saying this facetiously only because every Godzilla movie ever has pretty much been that way, right? Like,
Isn't
am I
that
wrong,
why there's
Gary? Like,
memes about people who just destroy they destroyed Japan, and it's like, oh look, Godzilla came through again.
all I can say is that this really had happened in Japan, by now they would not bother actually building on the island anymore, right? Like, why bother?
Why do we live here?
This is what I like. All right, Godzilla is an allegory about
Nuclear
what
bombs.
happens when you release a power that shouldn't be unleashed.
Right.
So you create this big giant monster, and it only attacks Tokyo.
Right? Why isn't it attacking the United States?
Yeah.
or Russia, or Britain.
Well,
or
I just don't think that
France.
would be popular with Americans, to be honest about that. But I get what you're saying. Like, it's about releasing nuclear material on Earth. Well, the Japanese didn't do that. We did. And I get what you're saying. There's kind of an irony there, considering we released it on Japan, yet somehow Japan's the one getting it again.
And again,
and again, and
again.
and King Kong was a American monster.
Correct.
And it really, for me, all it looks like is an ape that got too big.
Well, that is what King Kong is. He's an ape that got over.
Yeah, well, that's the thing when you have undiscovered frontier on the planet.
Right.
Right? Why were the dinosaurs so huge? Do you remember from science class?
Well,
honestly, that was a footnote. I don't. Know
I
why
have an
we
answer
never-
to this, but it's Jurassic Park. Because of DNA.
No, because of the oxygen-rich atmosphere that we had at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, 90% of the atmosphere was oxygen. And you grow big, you got a lot of oxygen and stuff.
That's my problem. I've been sucking up too much oxygen.
Yeah.
Especially during the pandemic. I don't know what I'm thinking.
I don't know how you're doing it. You're not wearing a mask. That's
All I know is
Yes, I gotta start with less oxygen in my house.
and
What's
less
wrong
gravity.
With me? Yes.
So, and
I have to stop using the Earth's gravity.
because you look at the planet in Jurassic Park or Jurassic Era.
See, now I got him thinking it.
It's all
I got in his head.
giant trees and it's all covered up with vegetation and stuff.
And huge orchestras that play.
Why'd I know you're gonna bring that up?
So, how did you guys feel about this movie? Like, would you recommend this to a friend? Would you highly recommend this to a friend, or would you just kind of be like, well, this is a movie you want to watch if you're a Godzilla fan. If you're not, maybe not so much.
More
do you
the
think?
latter.
What do you think, Gary?
I told everybody to watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to just watch monsters go at it, skip to the last 10 minutes.
I actually think there was a pretty good amount of action throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I was not bored in this movie at all.
Oh, so this was in a movie that Gary fell asleep in, like Resistance.
Well, can I point out? Did I fall asleep at all?
you actually did.
No, I didn't.
During the Hollow Earth scenes, you were asleep. I heard you snore.
Okay, for about 3 minutes of that, I will own that. Okay, but okay, not as bad as Zack Snyder's Justice League. Okay,
Yes.
and I really want to just kind of glaze over that real quick. My son and I decided to watch the 4 hours of that movie. I'm telling you right now, don't do it. It's 4 hours of your life you cannot get back.
If
And
you-
also, I'm gonna just say this: it's 4 hours. The heck? Who does that to an audience? Seriously.
Can I say something?
Gods and
Go
generals.
Bob? Indoor, please.
Please.
I can't handle it. I couldn't handle that movie. That's how bad it was.
My
like,
ears are
seriously.
hurting. Please
It's like
stop.
4 hours of like just like stab me in the heart and take me home.
The whole stupid slow motion stuff and
Oh my gosh.
they could have done away with that part, but other than that, I liked it all the way through.
I told my son the only thing that could have made it worse was what?
A lens flare.
Well, if there were a couple more lens flares in there, then that's it. I'd have been out.
So one of my friends and I, we were discussing this. We're like, okay, here's the ultimate like terrible combo: lens flare with slow motion and then explosions in the background.
Yes.
The Michael Bay, Abrams, Snyder.
Yes. What do we call that? The Bay Snide...
The Snyder.
The Snide Day Abram or something,
Something
like that.
like
And
that.
we came up with some weird for it. Look, it's a Snide Day Abram. Because every time they like slow mode, I'm like, there's another one. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, they could have took all the slow motion stuff out of it and been all right.
Yeah.
And I want to glaze over it a little bit, but we were MSTKing that because the slow mo was hilarious.
Because it was the only one that could stay awake, honestly. And honestly, it was like somebody went and watched The Matrix and went, yes, that's amazing, and decided to apply it to a superhero movie. And I'm like, no, it's not amazing.
And like I told you guys before, take a nap,
Yeah.
have a nice comfortable pillow underneath your butt, and you'll enjoy the movie.
I didn't think it was bad. I just felt like you could filter some stuff. Kind of in the same way. To
I
get back-
enjoyed it. I had a great
I
nap.
enjoyed it too.
It was awesome.
If
Yeah.
you were to cut out a lot of the filler and maybe shorten the slow-mo segments.
I will say this: the one part I did appreciate and that I did enjoy was that Darkseid actually showed up, and they actually showed the battle between the gods and the superheroes of Earth. That
And I kind of like the fact
I actually
that
appreciated that.
I like the fact that we acknowledged the anti-life equation that we actually saw it kind of being in use and then didn't get used.
Now you have not seen the original cut. I
No.
can't wait to show you that at some point because you're gonna be like,
Oh.
"What was that? That was a dumpster fire compared to
I-
the 4 hours of Snyder cut."
So
Um,
I have to admit, YouTube has been recommending like side-by-side comparisons of scenes that were just like dubbed over.
Yeah,
And one of them is the Superman scene where he arrives to battle. I'm forgetting his name.
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. And we don't. It doesn't look anywhere near the same.
It was awful in the
And I
movie.
watch it through going, wow.
Yeah, it was awful in the movie. It's just kind of like out of nowhere,
Wow.
Superman arrives. And you're like, oh,
Well, the biggest
okay.
problem I had with Superman was the fact that they had a photoshopped his mustache.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say
yeah.
it kind of looks obvious.
Yes.
Is it in the Snyder's cut? Because I didn't see it as much.
It's there.
It's there.
Is it smooth?
If you really look
okay.
for it.
Okay, I must not been paying attention.
Here's
that
the other
much.
thing I was a little annoyed with the Snyder cut, and Gary probably didn't affect you too much, but it's shot in 4:3, not in widescreen, right?
Yes.
So like I've got my black bars on the side, and oh by the way, some of the shots they threw in were older shots, and they never refined them, right? So you could tell what was stuff that they threw in at the last minute, and what was like well shot and well edited and well put together shots. I wish you would have spent a little more time to clean it up. That you know what I mean? If I'm gonna watch 4 hours of a movie, I want to see a clean movie. I don't want to see.
And see it in HD, not standard
Right. I don't
def, which is
understand why I
like.
can't see in HD. I don't get it. So
So I have a.
let's get back to Kong versus Godzilla. What did you guys think of Mecha Godzilla as he were? Because he was kind of Mecha Godzilla, but kind of not.
Almost felt Pacific Rim too much.
No.
What do you think, Gary?
I compared the whole thing as Kong being Daniel Bryan, Godzilla being Edge, and Roman Reigns being Mechagodzilla.
Okay, you lost me on all that.
I was gonna say you got.
That's a WWE triple threat match at WrestleMania.
There we go. That's
Okay.
where you lost me.
Okay.
See, I stopped at WWF.
Didn't continue down the rabbit hole.
No.
I do not care at all about Roman Reigns. And Mechagodzilla was acting identical to how Roman Reigns has been acting lately. And the underdog being Daniel Bryan and Kong being the underdog. And pretty much he's the one that defeated Mechagodzilla. with the help of the nuclear powered axe.
Right.
All I know is I was waiting for when Godzilla went to use his atomic breath. For Mechagodzilla to just throw atomic breath down his throat and just.
I will say there was the one scene where they were both, like, the red and blue was going at
He
each
had
other.
the beam struggle, and that was awesome.
That actually was kind of cool. I say, except for the fact that almost looked like a Superman and, bad. What's the reverse Superman dude? I always forget his name. Bizarro. Remember how they used to have the two of them? I kind of felt like that was one of those.
Or even
moments,
the Iron Man versus War Machine.
Right? Yeah, same idea. The lasers going at each other and back and forth. But
they did that in the original Godzilla.
You're right. Yeah.
And Mechagodzilla.
Yes, they did.
That's the one thing I did like is that they did pay a lot of homage to the old Kong vs. Godzilla movie and the Mechagodzilla vs. Godzilla stuff. They did a good job of making almost the same type of battles and stuff.
I'll agree. I think there was a lot of good.
Now,
Somebody did their research. I'll put it that way when it came to the battles.
I didn't get the tree shoved down Godzilla's throat.
Did.
But I did get the axe handle
Yes.
shoved down his throat. So that's
Close enough, right? Close enough, yeah. What did you guys think of the subplot with Millie Bobby Brown and the African American dude running off to the Apex facility and all that? Was that
filler?
Was it needed? What did you think, Gary? Was it needed? I mean, Austin's calling it filler. What did you think, Gary?
Well, when I first, I've seen it multiple times already. So it's
Okay.
The first time I watched it, I thought it was just, they could just drop that.
Mm-hmm.
But then after subsequent watches and stuff, it kind of explained more what Apex was doing.
Okay.
And I think you needed to have that there for the reason why Mechagodzilla got showed up.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Because otherwise, Mechagodzilla is just a
it's like
a thing.
Okay,
what?
It's a Doctor Who sonic screwdriver moment. Yeah.
Like where does this thing come from?
Right.
Well, Apex has been building it. Because if you didn't have that, then you would never know that Mechagodzilla was going to show up at all.
Could they have told this story without the whole center of the Earth thing? Like, could it have
Hollow
happened?
Earth?
I call it the Upside Down. Austin doesn't get it, but Stranger Things for those people that get it. I call it the Upside Down because that's kind of what it is.
What I would have liked to have seen was a bigger battle between Kong and Godzilla, where Godzilla did win, but he suffered massive injuries.
I was gonna say Kong was the only one who was really bleeding.
And Mechagodzilla shows up, rips the scale off of Godzilla, whatever, and takes energy from him. That's what makes him power up.
Okay.
That's how I would have done it that way.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of cool, though. I can see that.
So the whole Middle Earth thing, or whatever you want to call it.
Now I'm picturing a bunch of dwarves running around in the middle of that.
We're not distant on us.
We're just trying to find Erebor. Sorry.
They found Mordor.
Right. They put the key in and it's over.
Well, that's the thing. Kong shows up, goes to Mordor, gets an axe, and goes and...
It is kind of a Lord of the Rings moment, isn't it?
So they could have did away with that whole thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. In my opinion, that's why I asked it, because I kind of agree with you. Like, that whole thing seemed a little... I don't know, like too quinky dink, I don't know. It felt forced. It felt very forced, that whole
It felt like you
scene.
were trying to be adding mysterious world building, and
I think they thought it would be cool from a visual standpoint to have a world where you could jump up in the middle of the sky and the world would go the other way. You know what I mean? I thought that it was... I get what they were trying to do visually, but it was kind of like, I don't know. It just didn't... It didn't seem necessary.
It didn't mesh with the rest of the storyline.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you just needed to throw in more Titans in the background.
Right, we'd have been fine with it.
Battling each other. Just
it would have been
moving around.
I mean,
like if you had a Mothra fighting with a smaller Ghidorah or something in the background, I'd have been like, okay, cool, cool.
Not even just have like a Rodan flying around.
I would have been okay with that.
I would have been interested if maybe Godzilla, when he disappears into the water, goes down into a hole in the Hollow Earth, and you could have had a Kong versus Godzilla fight down there that leads up through one of the holes.
Well, this is my whole problem in the whole thing is I don't think Godzilla can handle that Hollow Earth part.
Right. You don't think so?
He's his home base was underwater in Gulf of Mexico.
So you could have had a situation where you had this area where he can come in and it's mostly water and it's water with different gravity, and you have the area where the throne is with Kong, and you can have him battle for the throne.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly, because that's Kong's domain.
Right.
Godzilla's domain
is underwater.
Underwater and it was destroyed.
Right.
Kong's domain is under the earth and destroyed. So.
Okay, maybe I was just trying to see if we could bring a couple more action fights.
So my final question: do you guys think this is it for the American Kong Godzilla series, or do you think they're prepared to go further and go on from here?
They're going further.
You think they're going further, Gary?
If they wanted to end it, what I was expecting when I walked into watching this film, like, okay, somebody's gonna die, and they're gonna have one person be the king of the monsters. I was expecting Kong to be dead by the end of the film.
Well, I think that's what King of the Monsters was all about, though.
Well,
So you pretty much just described the movie before this one.
Well,
I was waiting for King of all monsters so that Kong gets his ass and gets his butt kicked.
Here's the thing. And I'm stealing this meme.
Mm-hmm.
Is why be a king when you can be a god?
True.
King Kong is the king. Godzilla's the god.
Okay.
Gods are higher than kings.
Fair enough.
Alright, but at the same time, I wanted to see Kong dead.
I kind of did too.
Just
Wow.
just to have a definitive victory
Right.
between the two.
I agree with you. I didn't like the draw where the Godzilla swam off and King Kong gets to go home.
I did kind of like the whole mutual respect between the two.
Yeah,
I did like that.
I understand.
But at the same time, I still really like seeing.
I wanted somebody to win. I guess that's
Maybe there'll be a King Kong versus Godzilla 2.
and you did have Godzilla actually win,
Right.
which everybody says he didn't.
Oh, he did. I think he did.
Yeah, because he's the one that crushed his heart.
Right.
Or I should say stopped his heart.
Right.
By standing on it.
And you had him be scratched and bled in multiple portions of this film.
Well, I mean, Godzilla, or excuse me, King Kong would have been dead had it not been for the human interference of defibrillating him. You know, like that. He would have been dead.
Yes, he would.
Period. So, if they move forward, what creatures do we have left? Gary, I know you would know this. I'm not even sure who's left.
Okay, as far as from King of the Monsters,
Yeah.
you had Behemoth,
Oh, that's right.
which is like a big giant mammoth
Right.
type creature. How that's gonna fight Kong or Godzilla, I have no idea. There's a giant spider that I guess in the prequel graphic novel was the only one that got anywhere close enough to get to Skull Island.
Okay.
But Godzilla interfered with that and bitch slapped the spider around.
Okay.
And the spider kind of went home with the tail between its legs.
Sheila Blues got it.
And
Get out of my head.
Methuselah, I think, is another one.
Okay.
That's just from King of the Monsters. So
There were some other creatures that Godzilla fought somewhere along the way, right?
Godzilla only lost to one creature. And that was I don't remember the actual name of him, but it was a Smog Monster.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So,
Did he really lose, though? I thought he just kind of ran with his tail between his legs on that one.
well, it's a loss.
I guess that's a loss, yeah.
You know. So,
Well, it'd be interesting to
But-
see. Yeah, go ahead.
Planet X, that they haven't
Maybe you touched on that
touched
yet.
that, except for the fact that Ghidorah wasn't from Earth.
Right.
It's not a natural alpha on Earth. So that could be they could do a whole prequel of just Ghidorah itself. And there is a space Godzilla where the aliens come and take DNA from Godzilla and make their own.
Really? I don't remember that one. Huh. Okay.
Marvin the Martian.
I will now take this, my P59 space modulator, and modulate your DNA
I
to
shall
make
modulate Godzilla.
Godzilla!
But then the Vorgons come and they blow the planet up.
And then Gamera shows up.
No. Gamera will never show up. You don't know who the Vorgons are, then?
No.
You do, Bob?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm drawing a blank as to where the Vorgons come from.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
There we go. That's it. That's right.
The Vorgon construction.
That's right. Yeah.
Making a space highway right through Earth.
Right through it. Yes, I remember that now.
What?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
So let's talk about our next topic.
And the dolphins leave and say thanks for all the fish.
Okay, so let's move on to our next topic. So there's rumors flying about that Keanu Reeves could be joining the Marvel MCU. And of course, as soon as that was announced, speculation as to what role Keanu Reeves could be playing started to fly about on the internet. And according to We Got This Covered, they think they figured out the role that Keanu Reeves could actually be potentially playing, or might have the looks to play, and that is that Keanu Reeves could look great as Mr. Sinister in X-Men, in the Marvel's X-Men reboot. So, Gary, I brought this up because I knew of all people you would be excited about this, because Mr. Sinister is one of your favorite X-Men characters, other than Colossus, correct? If I remember correctly.
Well, Colossus is my hero, and
Sinister's your
my
bad
villain.
guy,
My
right?
villain, yeah.
So, what do you think of this idea of Keanu Reeves playing the role of Mr. Sinister? Is this something you think that he could pull off?
I think he could pull it off, but at the same time, Sinister was never really a hands-on fighter.
Right? Didn't he manipulate other people to do what he wanted them to do?
Right.
I almost feel like if you're going to use Sinister, you almost need to build up to Sinister, right? Like, I mean, like, they were doing a really good job of that in the Days of Future Past groupings.
Well, the First Class movies. Yeah.
Right, because they had the Trask Corporation.
No, there's the Exodus Corp.
Thank you, Exocorp, that's the one. And they were starting to build up to Sinister, I think, showing up.
Right.
And I was kind of disappointed that we never got to that point where they...
Right. After Apocalypse, if they still had the franchise attached, there would be a Sinister showing up.
I mean, they hinted at it enough between two of the three movies.
Or I should say a Nathaniel Essex.
Right, at least, yeah, Essex Corporation and all that.
And Nathaniel Essex is a serious doctor type of person.
Right.
I think Keanu Reeves could do that part, and the fan picture that they have on here is really good as Mr. Sinister. I just don't see him, because everybody knows him as John Wick.
He is kind of a good guy, right? Like, I mean, even though he plays bad boy roles.
Well, John Wick wasn't really a good guy or a bad guy. He was just
He was like an anti-hero, really.
Yes, yeah.
And I say that only because, like, when you look at his roles, like The Matrix, he literally was Jesus Christ. I mean, like, I'm sorry, Neo is the story of Jesus Christ. I don't care what anybody says. He comes back to life. He gets resurrected by the robots. All that. That's the story of Neo.
There's a whole book written about it called The Faith of Matrix. I read it for one of my film classes.
I think
it was hilarious.
I think
it's awesome.
It's not hilarious. I think it's actually a valid.
It's a valid argument. But I'm saying, but there's some of the things that they go in so far detail to make me laugh a little bit.
I get it. Like they're almost a little too analytical in the book, trying to detail it out. But I think it's a valid argument that you could say that the story of Christ is being told in a modern way through the Matrix. Not to derail us, but in that case, you know, Keanu Reeves was definitely a good guy. Right. You know, when you consider him, you know, in John Wick, I agree with you, Gary. He's very much an anti-hero. Bill and Ted, he's a good guy. He's a lovable good guy. Well, he's kind of a dorky good guy, but a bad good guy in a way. But you know, so I get that. Toy Story 4, he played the
Duke Kaboom, the Canadian
is that
stuntman.
A good guy? You know,
he's a stuntman. So
again, he's kind of an anti-hero.
Not really. Right? He actually did a bunch of the stuff that was good for the
for the toys
at large.
So technically, kind of a good guy. So I agree with you, Gary. It's kind of hard to see Keanu Reeves as this like evil, manipulating bad guy. You know,
Yeah, a serious.
I would be open to watching it more or less. Like, I don't know much about Sinister, Mr. Sinister, as you say, unlike Gary.
Well,
I'm open.
The other thing is too is Apocalypse is the one that took a human and he gave him powers.
right,
He's not really a mutant. That's the other thing too.
right,
Which everybody thinks he is. He's not. He's a geneticist that helped Apocalypse obtain immortality without having the Lazarus pit type thing.
You're talking about Mr. Sinister.
Yes.
Sorry, you said Apocalypse. That's what
No. Sinister, Nathaniel Essex helped Apocalypse
Right.
obtain immortality without having the Lazarus pit
Right,
thing.
right,
That was from the movie. That was in the movie Apocalypse.
right.
They were using the mutant powers to take the body that Apocalypse burned out into another body.
Okay.
So Nathaniel Essex did that for Apocalypse and got immortality himself from Apocalypse by being made into what he is.
But I mean,
as Mr. Sinister.
the good news is that's kind of thrown out at this point, right? I mean, like,
Well,
because
that's the comic book stuff.
I get it. I get it.
It came right out of the comic book. So, my biggest concern is I want it done correctly. I don't want it done half-assed.
I agree, and I hope they don't rush it. You know what I mean? That's my other big thing about the X-Men and just mutants in general. Don't rush the storylines in these guys. Like, actually let it play out over an extended period of time.
Do what you did with all the Marvel films up to this point for Avengers, for your X-Men.
I would like for them to do that. Yes.
Give
Do I
Wolver-
think they're going to?
No.
No.
I'd say give Wolverine his own film and have him go toe-to-toe with an earlier
No, actually,
version of the Hulk.
I think they need to almost do like a backstory first. Like almost do like they did in Apocalypse, do it right, because Apocalypse sucked, and go all the way back to how did the mutants begin, and then have somebody that's in modern day, maybe even it's just Deadpool, that is the here's how we got to here
No.
moment.
Maybe have Charles Xavier sitting at a table talking to students and then we flash back.
No.
No? Too predictable?
With the Eternals coming out, they can do that with making Apocalypse.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, so because supposedly that's what happened. He was the first mutant.
Right.
Was Apocalypse.
Okay. Well, that would make sense because he was an early Egyptian, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And
Do you think they could tie the Eternals to that? Like the Eternals knew the mutants started in ancient Egypt, you know what I mean? And like they were overlooking what was going on or watching it, as it were.
They could. I think they could. They could get away with it.
That actually might be a really cool tie-in, actually.
I thought first what I heard is there was an experiment happening on with the Eternals, and as a result, it created the mutants by accident, and also the Inhumans.
Well, that's been a rumor that that's how Disney was going to do it. We don't know that's the case yet, but that's a rumor that they might use Eternals in that way. I don't know. It could be a cool way to, again, to introduce the mutants to the MCU. I am worried about how they do it. I don't want it to just be like, oh, here's a Deadpool movie, now we have the mutants. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be, there needs to be nuance to it. It can't just be like, prang, there's the mutants, and there you go. It's done.
I
You know?
still-
They could do that. If they want an explanation, they're going to have to go back and do that.
But you get what I'm saying. I don't just want it to all of a sudden be like, there's an X-Men, there we go, we're in. You know, like, I want it to be a little more nuanced than that, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, let me ask you this. If Keanu Reeves doesn't play Mr. Sinister, what other role could he play? What do you guys think?
The biggest rumor that was going around the most was Moon Knight.
I was just
We got that thrown out because
They announced who Moon Knight is, so that kind of ends that one.
that's Oscar Isaac.
Oscar
yeah,
Isaac.
I'm
played
trying
Moon
to
Knight.
think of Marvel characters he could play, and
I have one in mind.
What is that? Because I have.
Because they're going to blow your minds, and you're going to be like, oh, I can see it. They'll have to shave his head.
You want him to do Xavier?
No. I want him to do Ghost Rider.
Ooh.
I think he could be a good Ghost Rider, an anti-hero who saves people's souls by, right?
Yeah,
by
with the pen and stare and everything
Right.
else. Yeah.
Yep. I just think Keanu Reeves would be perfect for that role.
After all the other two, after watching the two Ghost Rider films with you two as we were driving to Celebration.
You mean the craptastic versions? Yeah.
Yeah, where you had what's his face?
But remember,
like,
they're not.
I know they're no longer.
Nicolas Cage is who you're talking about.
Yeah, we had him cackle like a crazy man. That it depends on the interpretation of Ghost Rider they would do that he could do.
I think you could do a mixture of something better than the Nicolas Cage version, but closer to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. version. That instead of having a car, he could have the motorcycle like he should,
And he can.
but he could have the leather jacket, be a badass, you know what I mean, with a chain and all that. I really think I could see Keanu Reeves playing that role.
Are we gonna give a full backstory upon?
I think you have to. I think you have to
Upon-
ignore Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and just, like, this is a new Ghost Rider. Because Ghost Rider technically is a... how do I put this? He's a spirit that moves from body to body. So this could be a new body that the Ghost
Yeah.
Rider
Isn't
embody.
the actual spirit of Ghost Rider named
There's a... Yeah,
Zephesto or something like that?
Yeah, something... He's a...
Zarathos.
He's a sub-being of Mephisto and worked for Mephisto at one point in time, and Mephisto is going to show up in Doctor Strange too. So that is why I'm saying this could...
They could tie it in.
You could tie it in.
Ghost Rider is the spirit of vengeance.
Right.
And the name you mentioned is correct.
Okay.
He had nothing to do with Mephisto.
I'm pretty sure he worked with Mephisto.
I was gonna say,
Mephisto wanted him to be his herald type of person.
Okay, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of then.
Right.
Okay.
So, Ghost Rider is basically, no, I'm in it for myself.
Okay.
The spirit of vengeance is in for himself.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, is to get vengeance on,
Right.
on the evil.
Right.
And every sub-demon, devil, everything wanted the Ghost Rider to be
They're subordinate.
right, working for them.
Right. Is there any other characters you guys think that Keanu Reeves could pull off?
Well, you'd have to put him in a red suit and give him a mohawk. Gladiator.
Oh. Okay.
I was thinking of Yondu. I'm like, I thought we killed Yondu, and then I realized
and
where
the
he's
only
going
reason why I
with that.
say gladiators because he was a hands-on fisticuffs person.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The other one I thought of that might work for Keanu Reeves, but man, he would be putting him in tights, and I just can't see it. Is the Captain Canuck to bring in the Alpha Flight team?
Oh.
You know, he could potentially pull that off too. Because again, hands-on. I'm like Gary. I'm thinking like a hands-on character. Like who would be that
You
way?
put him for Puck and
Me.
Tyrion Lannister.
Well, okay. Either that, or I always thought Danny Elfman or Danny DeVito, not Danny Elfman.
Danny
Sorry.
DeVito.
Danny DeVito could make a really good Puck, don't you think? I always thought he could.
Portly enough, but I don't think he's short enough.
He might be too old now. That's part of the problem.
I wanted to play Wolverine.
You want
DeVito?
DeVito playing Wolverine?
I mean, he's the right height, but
Have you seen any of the photoshops of him?
no.
It's awesome.
I gotta look this.
He would actually have to. You'd have to beef up a lot though to make that
No,
happen.
just leave him the way he is.
Oh, God, no.
It's awesome.
No. Okay, that definitely needs us to move on. Okay, so the last article we want to talk about is Kathleen Kennedy. The rumor is Kathleen Kennedy is giving up Star Wars, and she's supposedly doing it willingly. Now, I will say this. There are rumors flying around inside of LFL that things are not going well. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
That things are not going well. And I can tell you that Kathleen Kennedy puts on a good face and is acting like everything in LFL is great, grand, wonderful, all the projects are moving forward, everybody's happy, and the Cassian Andor series is going to be great, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is going to be great, and Bad Batch is going to be awesome, and everybody's going to love everything. And I'm telling you right now, inside of LFL, there is a civil war going on. And I'm serious about that. There is two batches of people within LFL, and they are battling with each other about what to do about moving forward with Star
I
Wars.
feel like we should have the boxing. In the red corner, we have Kathleen Kennedy representing the
But
Empire.
the real reality is all of this started, all of it, started all the way back, and we've had a podcast about this, with the Gina Carano firing. And again, here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about Gina Carano being fired. It's how Kathleen Kennedy did it that has a lot of people upset. And supposedly Gina, by the way, I'm bringing this up now because this weekend Gina is supposed to do 3 interviews. And she has said, with different networks, she has said in one of those 3 interviews, she will be outing the people who inside LFL are very upset that she got let go.
Oh, I think
And actually contacted her and showed support for her privately, even though they wouldn't do it publicly. And she has gotten permission from those people to start talking about the fact that they privately supported her.
I'm thinking Favreau, I'm thinking Filoni, and I'm thinking probably...
I actually don't think it's Filoni.
You don't
Believe
think
it or not,
Filoni?
I don't think it's Filoni. I do think it's Favreau.
Maybe the one girl that's directing Howard.
Dice Relic, or Lee Dice Howard, whatever her name is. Yeah, I get it.
You know who I'm talking
The
about.
3-named person. I get
Joyce
it.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard. Thank you. I knew the last name was Howard because of her
Pardon us,
father.
we are terrible with names.
So, I do think you are right in that I think Jon Favreau is one that I think privately wants Gina back. I think another person that a lot of people are overlooking is I think Bill Burr.
I was about to say him.
I think he really truly saw what was going on there and thought it was total BS. Okay, that she got let go.
And especially
And I
after
think
the,
there's a surprise.
Academy Awards
I think
incident.
there's a surprise you're all going to be surprised at. I think Kevin Feige
Oh.
was furious at Kathleen Kennedy for her management style in the situation. I don't think he was necessarily against getting rid of Gina, but from what I'm hearing, Feige's upset that they did it through social media and said that that is not a way that a business does its hiring and firing of people, which I can agree with. I see what Feige is saying. If you want to get rid of somebody, you want to call them in, you want to release them, fine. Do that privately. Don't make it a public thing and then make a little statement, on your website. But don't go out there in social media land and just be like, mic drop, you're fired. You
don't need the Donald Trump apprentice. I'm sorry, you've done a terrible.
But even then, it was a
You're
TV
fired.
show that everybody agreed that that's how it was going to get handled. This is not the way you handle contracts. This is not the way you handle business. Okay,
With
Disney's
employees.
going to get right with employees. Disney's going to get a really. I mean, I'm sorry, they have a black eye. They know it. They know it. I mean, think about this. It was so big that at the last investors meeting, and Forbes actually reported this, and Forbes doesn't like to talk about this kind of stuff. But at the last investors meeting, investors were actually asking about Gina Carano, the way it got handled, and what are they going to do about it in the future. And I'm telling you right now, Forbes magazine would not be covering that unless they thought there is still backlash inside of LFL about what's going on here. So, here's what I know of from the... There's two realms of thought about what's going on here.
Okay.
Either Kathleen Kennedy is willingly going to step away. I'm not even going to call it willingly stepping away. From what I've heard, Kathleen Kennedy is going to... You're going to get mad about this, but it's good for the franchise. She is going to get promoted inside Disney.
To what?
We don't know. But she will not be the head of LFL anymore. And then Jon Favreau will come in and head LFL. Now, there have been counter arguments to this, and I kind of get it. Jon Favreau is not a business leading type of guy. Do you get what I'm saying there? Okay, he's a behind the film, he's a behind the camera kind of dude. I could understand that actually when people were saying, well, he's not the guy to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if you promote Kathleen Kennedy and move Kevin Feige into head of LFL.
Isn't Kevin Feige in head of Marvel right now?
But I think he's looking to get out of it. So it would be a sideways step for him. Let somebody else head up Marvel. there's people in Marvel that could lead Marvel, and Kevin Feige could move over to Star Wars and fix it and clean it up. And there are people, the Russo brothers come the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Let one of the Russos lead it. Marvel's in a decent state that they could have Kevin Feige step away,
You could have
and they'll be okay.
You could have the Midas touch step away from it for a little bit and let the gears turn for a little bit without him, and try to have the Midas touch on Star Wars.
Yes,
Bring
and
the
get
fans-
it turned around, because right now the fans are furious in the Star Wars side of things.
Get the fans back on your side. Possibly redo the sequels.
Now,
if that's
The other rumor that I'm hearing is that the upper management likes Kathleen Kennedy. They love her. The guy who's the CEO of Disney right now, and his name's slipping my mind, he loves Kathleen Kennedy. She's staying, and they're basically going to write a letter, this is the other side of it, to anybody who's working for LFL, that Kathleen's staying for the next 5 years, because her contract's up, I think, in 3 months. But they're going to renew it for 5 years, and if you don't like it, now's your chance to leave. We will. If you leave now, without any question, we'll give you a positive, whatever on your resume, and you can go work for whoever. But basically, Kathleen's our gal, and she's going to be our gal for the next 5 years. So if you don't like it, take a hike. So which of these two do you think are most likely? Do you think it's the first one or the second one?
Well, before you go on,
Okay.
I've also read where the board of directors
Yeah.
are split.
Yes. And that's the Civil War part.
But that's where I'm thinking things are going on.
That's the Civil War part, because the board of directors is split. One group of the board of directors wants to promote her and get her up higher in Disney because they like her. The other group of board of directors wants her to stay, and then wants her gone completely. So it's there's this weird battle going on within Disney about what to do about her. What do you guys think is most likely?
I don't know. I feel like it's a mix of all the realms.
I think Feige's going to take over Lucasfilm. They can take Kathleen Kennedy and put her in charge of new cartoons of Disney characters.
And I could totally see that being fine, but I don't know if that's what I would want.
I would be even more sinister with that, Gary, and here's where this is where my brain goes. This is wrong and evil, but I could see Disney doing it. I would move Feige, the head of LFL. You're right. I'd have the Russo brothers run Marvel. I'd move Kathleen Kennedy. You'd all hate this, to the head of Pixar. And I'll tell you why you'd make Kathleen Kennedy the head of Pixar. If you want to change hearts and minds of children, she'd be the one to do it. Because Pixar movies are always crafted towards which group of people?
Do you really want
Kids.
her messing with children's minds?
I'm not
about
saying I
things?
like the idea. I'm just saying if you're a little twisted, like Disney, at least some of the people on the board of Disney, that's where I'd put all my eggs in a basket. I'd move Kathleen Kennedy to the head of Pixar.
I was gonna say, I don't think the most recent Pixar and Disney films, like, was it Soul was by Pixar? Or was it...
Soul was by Pixar. The Raya and the Dragon was by Disney.
Both of them are not that great.
Well, they didn't do well, but again, they weren't box office releases, so we don't
not
know.
box office releases, but I'm sitting here saying is we watched Soul.
I wasn't that impressed with it. I know a lot of people loved it, but
I
I
didn't
was
think
like,
it was all
eh.
that interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of
Cool,
boring.
yeah, we have music introduced into it. And
I know, and as a music teacher, I saw a lot of potential in it, and I was disappointed.
And you were like let down. And for me, it was also terrible. It was like, we gotta watch. Why?
Yeah.
I
It's
watched
okay.
Inside Out and like, oh, cool, yay.
I also think as you get older as an adult, the Pixar movies aren't as
But isn't that
wowing as
wasn't that
you
the
were when you were a
whole
kid.
point as an adult is that you could watch Pixar movies with your kid and you could still live in the wonder of a child?
No, I think the point of Pixar movies was that you could watch a movie with a kid and not be completely annoyed, like, say, Larry Boy, when you watched it 20 million times.
Hey.
I'm just saying,
I
it's
was
the
young.
truth.
Very young.
So, Gary, you think it's more of the they want her out kind of thing.
I think they want her out and put her in the development of new Disney princess movies.
Okay.
Take her feminist stuff.
It'll
and
be
we'll put it
interesting to
there.
see where this goes. I think her contract's up either in the next month or two. I am kind of curious what their plan is. Like, what do they plan on doing here? How do they plan on moving her around? And
Then that way they can have their first non-gendered princess.
you might be right there. They might be looking for a non-binary princess at this point. And they're probably going to say it's about time. Or maybe they're going to look for their first transgendered princess. Who knows? Are there any
Do you remember when they had
stories out there of transgendered princesses? I'm not aware of them.
when they put out Brave and people were mad because she's they called her a Tommy boy kind of princess, Brave.
Tomboy? Yeah, she was kind of.
She was, and they made fun of it. Even Robot Chicken made fun of it. I'm sitting there going, and I would rather that because
Yeah, but I'm telling you right now, if they do this, if they do a transgendered princess, it's not going to get made fun of. It'll be celebrated. Just understand.
I just don't understand.
Just understand. You have to understand the culture. Okay, so those are our thoughts on those subjects. And again, those subjects were the movie Godzilla vs. Kong, Keanu Reeves, and the role that he'll play in the Marvel MCU, and Kathleen Kennedy. Does she stay or does she go? Will she stay or will she go? Okay, so we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us via Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on MeWe, Rumble, YouTube, and all sorts of other places like Gab.com as well. So please find us on GalaxyCast or email us at galaxycast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. And with that, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back after our break to talk about the first episode of Wandavision.
While we're not recording for the podcast, I just want to put out the last site is giant freaking robot, and I just want it to be pronounced like Peter Griffin, like, look, it's a giant freaking robot. And Video Land now knows I watch way too much Family Guy.
I think everybody knows you watch way too much Family Guy.
Oh, well.
Okay, let me save this quick.
Freaking sweet.
This house is freaking sweet. I'm gonna grab a soda quick while you're saving.
I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
Notice he didn't say quick.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Take me half hour just to get up.
Yeah, that's what she said.
So did you get a bowl Katana yet or not?
Not yet. That's one I gotta get for that.
I should have called it. I should have picked it up for you.
Yeah, it's okay. At some point I'll get her. What I really want to get is the rest of season 1, which is heavy Moff Gideon. Okay. Grab my phone.
I don't even hear the sound half the time anymore now. My wife hears it because it does a weird, when it does the circular thing, it goes like, I don't even hear it anymore. I guess I'm just used to it. Our cameras are still on, just so you're aware.
Okay.
I can pause those. Let me pause them. Minimized.
Well, when you didn't see the whole paragraph that's underneath it, because it only shares the first 4 sentences.
Why do you always talk? And then you never take a breath?
Oh, Bob, you're making fun of me.
Do you see, Video Land, how they make fun of
Notice
me?
Gary had to put back on his emperor robe.
Yes. Buick.
Okay, are you ready? I don't think we're gonna have much to say. It's gonna get interesting, folks. I might have to be like. Okay, here we go. Hey, folks! Welcome back to this episode of the GalaxyCast as we talk about episode 1 of Wandavision, titled "Filmed Before a Live Studio Audience." This was an interesting episode, and it got even more interesting as time went on the whole thing.
It was sponsored by Buick.
Would you stop to cheat? Okay. So, we're going to read from Wikipedia's explanation of what episode 1 was about. We can talk about it as we go. Newlywed couple Wanda and Vision move into the town of Westview in a black and white 1950s setting. So, real quick, Gary, what are some of the TV shows that you thought this particular episode emulated? What did you think? Because I know Austin's not going to know any of these, so he's not going to help here, but I know some of them.
Hey.
Well, let's
I love Lucy.
yeah.
Okay.
I love Lucy. Leave It to Beaver.
Well, that one I didn't know.
I think there's a couple that are outside of the 50s setting it emulated a little bit too.
Yeah. Bewitched.
Thank you. Bewitched was another one I was going to say. I Dream of Jeannie, I thought it had a little bit of that feel to it a little bit. Yes, the next episode was better with that, but there was a little bit of that feel to it.
Yeah.
What about the Waltons? Did you think there was a little bit of that feel to it?
I didn't. No.
Okay. All right.
It was over the top comedy.
Well, that's why I bring up like Walton's stuff.
Walton's didn't have it.
Mom and Pa Kettle was another one I thought about. Maybe a little over the top kind of comedy kind of stuff, right?
All I know is the magical sparkle thing just reminded me of like it's the Wonderful World of Walt Disney where he had Tinkerbell,
Kind
the
of.
Tinkerbell
Yep.
sparkle. That's
Yep.
all I'm thinking of. Like,
So they attempt to blend in despite Vision being an android and Wanda having telekinesis and reality warping abilities. Because every day people have some of those things. I mean, like
yeah, it's just
Sure.
it's just
it was funny because Austin brought up, he's like, why do people not realize he's an android if he's going through his like work job in 5 seconds flat? Like, how could they not know that?
he's
Because they got
sitting.
a middle arm.
He's over there looking like Superman going.
Well, and like, what did I tell you? I mean, we know more about the show because it's over. But at the time, I even told you at the time, well, obviously something else is going on here that's kind of keeping people from seeing that or even realizing that this isn't normal. And obviously, Wanda plays a major role in this, or it wouldn't be called Wandavision. So
Yes.
one day they notice a heart drawn on their calendar, but neither can remember what the occasion is. So, do you guys think that the heart had everything to do with the occasion, or do you think there was something else going on there?
Little of column A, little of column B.
Okay, Gary, your thoughts?
It was just a MacGuffin.
You think it was just a MacGuffin? They're going to try to get people to bite onto that?
Yeah.
I think there was actually something else going on there, and I think the heart looked broken, like it was cracked, or even like the sticker wasn't quite all together. And I'm wondering if that was a representation of Wanda's heart being broken by this point, because
So-
of what we find out later.
Are
Because
you
she's
trying
got a
to
broken heart because Vision is not whole.
Okay, are
Right?
you trying to say along the lines of what happened in Infinity War that this is that date moved into the
Yes.
timeline?
Yes, and they have actually hinted at that this is right after Infinity War.
Good night.
Okay, so you get some of the imagery here, right?
I get the imagery and stuff, but I just don't.
What I know is that when I go on YouTube and there's people like Easter egging this, they're looking for the minute detail in the corner, like in section 3, scene number 2.
Yeah, but this is why Gary
Screenshot
and
number
hang on,
17.
before you knock that, this is why Gary and I watch the background and not the foreground when we watch these shows.
All I know is it's very sweaty. Like, I swear they're up at the screen going, where is he? Where is he?
Maybe.
Well. Here's the difference between me watching the background.
You, I don't mind. It's not like it's crazy.
No, just listen. Hear me out.
I'll hear you out.
I watch the background instead of the main action, and I catch a lot of stuff that's in the background that no one else catches.
Terminator 2 books on the coffee table.
The whole people that are finding Easter eggs and stuff, they've watched the episode just to look for the Easter eggs.
Right.
I'm finding them the first time I watch it.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
So going on, well, Vision goes to his job at Computational Services Incorporated, which I even thought that was kind of like, there's a MacGuffin. Wanda decides that the heart represents their anniversary. How do you not know when your anniversary is? That's kind of weird, right? I mean, hey, March 1st, I'm good. I know.
Pot.
I have never forgotten my anniversary. Don't you dare. Ever. Not once. Go ask your mother. I'm serious. I have never, ever, ever forgotten her anniversary.
Fair enough, but you've forgotten what her birthday is.
Not always. Their neighbor Agnes introduces herself to Wanda and helps her prepare to celebrate that night. So she forgets her anniversary. The next door neighbor just happens to show up, and they are like, hey, we better celebrate. Here's what you need to do to celebrate an anniversary. You know, and it's funny because all the things that she suggests are nothing that people do to celebrate anniversaries unless you're on a 1950s sitcom. Don't you agree, Gary? Like, none of that stuff is ways you would celebrate a normal anniversary, like, in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah? Okay.
Why not?
But, I mean, I felt like it was very, like, Leave It to Beaver-esque, right?
I wouldn't do it.
There it is.
There you are, Palpatine.
But it felt very, like, Leave It to Beaver-esque, don't you think? Like, something that Mrs. Cleaver would have done in order to celebrate with her husband. That's the way I felt.
Yeah, that's the problem I had with the 50 sitcoms.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Isn't that
'Cause
50 sitcoms writing, like, weird, like, predictable things are
Well,
about
okay,
to happen?
50s sitcoms were trying to keep the 50s family ideology going strong. So this is like, I don't know if you've ever seen the memes online. They actually aren't memes. They're actual articles where like they tell the woman in Woman's Day magazine to be dressed for success when he comes home. Like, be in a dress. Meet him at the door with a drink to make him feel more comfortable. Have slippers at the ready when he walks in the door. Have dinner ready to go within a half an hour of him walking home from work. Right? All these kind of crazy things.
Almost the
have his pipe ready for him.
There you go, right.
almost
Yeah.
Reddit of Mary Poppins at 10:02. I thought the song where he's
it's-
walking about the British clock
Correct.
situation.
I mean, yes,
where
but
he
it's...
comes in the door, the
But
slippers
you have
are
to
in hand.
understand, in 1950s America, this was what was
I
expected
know, and that's
of
what I'm
women
like-
and the wife. She was expected to do these things. And there was a lot of pressure from society on women. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not even saying it should happen anymore, because for crying out loud, I don't even agree with any of this stuff. But there was pressure from society on women to function and perform this way. Now,
Would this be great-grandma
Kristen,
or great-grandma?
this would be your great-grandmother, yes. This would have been my mother's mother. My mother did live through it a little bit because she was married in the 50s, but like late 50s. But I don't think she ever felt the need to be this way. But also, too, people forget that in this time period, women didn't go to work.
It wasn't until like
so they
60s when they went to work.
They were, well, even in
No.
the 60s, women didn't necessarily go to
Not
work.
necessarily.
The 70s is when it.
The 70s is when it all
So
changed,
when
right?
did Grandma start working as a assistant? 'Cause
When
know
I was
she
in school.
in this- What about? I thought there
She
was.
didn't work when I was... She didn't even work... When I was in elementary school, she didn't work. It wasn't until I was like maybe 5th, 6th grade, and then she started
I
working.
swear, Papa and Grandma, when they visited me at college, talked about when they were in Chicago.
Oh, she
living.
might have worked in Chicago. But once
Okay.
they had kids,
That was a whole
That
different
was it.
ball.
That
Okay.
was a whole different ball game.
That was that's why I was asking.
So,
Okay.
but I'm just bringing. It's a valid point, Austin.
But every 50s movie,
Sitcom, whatever,
drama, whatever.
TV, a radio show.
Well, no, because you can't see this visual.
Yeah, but they still had. They explained what was going on. But anyway.
Well, no, but still, this visual, you know, the wife was wearing a dress
Cheesy over the
and
top.
heels,
Okay.
cleaning the house.
Right. Yep. With curl, hair curled, makeup on.
Nope. That was always at night with the haircut.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
All I know is when people talk about it, like, you have the memes where people are like, this is what was done in the 50s, and now I do that without any clothes on because I really don't feel like wearing clothes at home. I'm sitting there going,
Okay,
times
I
have
haven't
changed.
heard those, and I don't know what's on your news feed, but
no.
that's not on mine.
There's a couple friends of mine who are a little out
Okay.
there.
And
They know who they are.
the biggest problem I have with anything at the throwback to the 40s and 50s is it's always in black and white.
You don't like black and white, do you?
I don't care about if it's in black and white or not, but why do you have to have a show that's being made now? And they're talking about back in the 50s or whatever, and it's in black and white. When did they invent color?
Well, technically, color televisions.
No,
Did-
I'm not
did-
talking about colored television. I'm talking about color. Because every time you go back in time, whether what show it is,
I get what you're saying.
it's always in black and white.
I think it's to represent color TV, which color TV didn't come out until the early 60s.
Because
Now,
it's a TV
No.
show.
my mom had
No,
the
Because
first.
color TVs were back in the 30s,
Well,
and they just weren't as prevalent as they are now.
my mom had one of the first color TVs, and it actually wasn't a color TV. It was a black and white that you put a colored overlay on.
Happy
That-
days.
Yeah. What's that?
Happy days.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah, it was kind of, yeah. Which this had a little bit of a Happy Days
I was
feel to
gonna
it,
say,
too.
it's essentially the same way like lighting films worked, right? It was like you had the colored film.
Yeah.
And it was
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was
Okay.
that colored film.
Good.
But they had like an opaque pink they'd stick over the screen, and that's what gave it the quote unquote color.
Because I would pick on people that grew up in the 50s and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time there's something going back in the past, I go, so when did they invent color?
Right.
And I'm not talking about the TVs. It's like,
I get it.
I'm going back in the past, and everything's going to be in black and white.
So going on. Vision amazes his coworkers with his speed, but is unsure what his company actually does. I don't think we ever discover what his company actually
Nope,
does.
it's just a computing agency.
He is reminded that the heart represents plans for him and Wanda to host his boss, Mr. Hart, and his wife for dinner. So that was, that's
Set
why
up-
Gary calls it the MacGuffin.
Set up the comedy skit.
I think it was the MacGuffin that is also maybe has a minor, role there. Wanda and Vision struggle to hide their abilities while making a last-minute dinner for the Hearts. Well, let's talk for a minute about what happens prior to that point, because Wanda shows up in a freaking negligee, and tries to, surprise Vision, and of course he comes home with his boss and his wife.
No.
And then they play it off as, well, she's from Wakanda.
No,
Sokovia.
Sokovia.
Sokovia, the other one. And, they try to play it off, well, she's European. I told my wife, I thought it was kind of funny, too, because supposedly this was a racy negligee. And I'm like, really? Because compared to her costume later on, this negligee covers more.
But at the time, that was
In the 1950s, right.
It would've
Like,
been
if you just
kind of-
showed any neck, you would have been way
Oh!
outside of the box there in
But
the 1950s.
she wears a dress where the thing's down to here and you can see her neck.
That would have been a big deal
Hey,
back then.
hey. That was a thing going for I get to see her bare shoulders.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bare shoulders is a big deal. By the way, if you never watched Leave It to Beaver or any of those 1950s shows, when they showed the bedroom for the parents, I always thought this was so interesting.
They're in separate beds.
Right. They were always in separate beds. They were never allowed to be in the same bed. And I always thought that was hysterical because, I've never known parents to have separate beds.
Well, unless
Grandparents, yes, but not parents.
I would
And
think that maybe
that was-
parents that are slightly separated.
that was done, by the way, because the corporations that
Oh,
ran
yeah.
the TV stations, didn't want to imply that anything was going on in the bedroom, so you kept the parents separated because, you know, you're married now. That's not supposed to be
it
happening.
was part of one of the
taboo.
It's taboo enough that they're sleeping in the same room.
Oh my goodness!
Right, like how dare you sleep in the same bed? And they slept with clothes on, by the way. Always made sure they were fully clothed.
Oh, time out here.
Okay, the movie The Patriot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when Heath Ledger spent the night.
Yeah.
What did they do?
The bag thing.
They sold him to the bed.
They sewed him to the bed? I thought they sewed a bag on him that he couldn't move.
Well, same difference.
Yeah, they sewed what's called a sleeping tarp onto him,
Essentially.
which would basically have kept him from getting out. Yes, and that was their way of that was their chastity belt, as it were.
So essentially, if it was been Harry Houdini, it would have been a straitjacket. He would have gotten out of it.
Yes, that's exactly it.
But he couldn't get her out of it.
Right. Exactly. At least not without the parents knowing. Anyway. See, that was the point. See, that's the point everybody misses about that movie. It's not just about him; it's about her too. You would know if he got out and she got out because that would be pretty obvious. Okay.
You would know.
Explain this to me, Bob.
I'm going to say this, and I'm time out.
I'll let you figure that out on your
Maybe
own.
back in 50s TV, I don't understand this, but if you're married, would you not be sleeping to have kids? Together in the same bed, at least.
No, because storks brought your kids. What
Oh
are you
my
talking about?
gosh.
Yeah, the last thing clear was that.
Right. It's like, how do you not know how this works by now? How do you think you got here?
All I know is
A
that.
stork brought you to my front door. What are you talking about?
And besides,
What does this feel like? Bill Cosby's like, you know you ain't.
Haven't
The
you watched
police
that?
brought you.
Haven't you watched that movie, The Stork? Come on.
and besides, the husband never fathered any kids.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
It was either mailman or the
This is true, yes. So going on, because I don't want this to delve into other stuff. Wanda and Vision struggle to hide their abilities. Struggle is kind of a low word there. While making a last-minute dinner for the Hearts. The fact that she's got the kitchen, like, not only torn apart, but it's in the air. And of course, in the meantime, while she's trying to cook, the next-door neighbor comes over, and she's trying to help her out. That's, why we end up having a lobster on the door by the end of the episode, which was kind of odd and
Oh, I
weird.
like the when the one person opens up the pass through and everything's in the air. I'm just waiting for the Fantasia music for the walking brooms.
Well, it was kind of, that was kind of funny, yeah.
I'm sitting there going, oh, I would love to have the music of this.
And
one.
all I can say is the Hearts are really stupid people, because if they never saw half of what was going on, it was really dumb. But that goes back to what Gary was talking about, which is the really dumb, over-the-top humor that was, like, way obvious,
Yeah.
right? So,
I mean, I love Lucy had over-the-top humor, but not as bad as this.
yeah, I'll give you
I was
that.
gonna say,
Yeah.
watching a few of the Christmas specials with Grandma.
But don't you think they did that to just kind of overemphasize? Like, that's the feeling I got. They were definitely overemphasizing the point here.
No, it's obviously Wanda not knowing what the 50s comedies were.
Right.
Except for the fact of what she used to watch when she was a kid.
Which
Right, and knowing what we know later, I think all of this being in her head the way it is, I truly believe that's what's going on here. Do we need to stop?
No.
Okay, so while interrogating Wanda and Vision, Mr. Hart chokes on his food. Vision uses his abilities to save him. So he chokes on a piece of food and really almost dies. Now, again, going back to now what we know versus what we knew then. So this is our second time watching it. I think it's kind of interesting to think that it's a possibility that Wanda did not like getting interrogated by Hart. And so it's a possibility she made him choke on the food.
to punish him,
Well, to one of two things. Either punish him or even just shut him up.
so that she
Right?
could like get him out of the house.
Now
and
think
then-
about it. Then Vision uses his abilities to save him.
Mhm.
So here she is using her abilities to almost kill him.
Mhm.
And Vision uses his abilities to save him. So there's kind of this weird, you know what I mean? Like, looking back on it now, it's kind of like, this is
This
interesting.
is a little messed up.
Right. So all this takes place in the fictional sitcom titled WandaVision, which someone is watching on a television. So it's like we're the audience looking in. They kind of break the third wall at the end when he turns
Fourth
the TV or fourth wall, excuse me, when he turns the TV off with the remote control. Which, by the way, that's what remote controls used to look like. Okay.
It's like
Did that. Remote controls were a kid.
Okay, the real reality for most of us is true because I was our remote control for our family.
Exactly.
You know, and you had to care enough to want to change the channel. So, like, if you're, you know, who's the comedian that said, you know, well, you had to change the channel, so you had to go over and be like, oh, I'm going to change to 3. 3, you know, like, it was, that's Chris Rock, I think. I mean, really, you had to be so annoyed with what was going on the television that you wanted to change the channel.
I'm just imagining you talking about having to change the rabbit ears.
Yes. Yes, the
Hold
rabbit
the
ears.
position. Do
not move. Yeah. So, a commercial during the Wandavision program advertises a Stark Industries Toastmate 2000 toaster oven. What do you guys think that might have been for? Like, we know all the commercials represent other things. What do you think the toaster oven might have been for? The Stark Industries toaster oven.
I'm a bit cynical, but I'm going to say because Stark used the Infinity Gauntlet and killed himself, and in doing so, he kind of burned himself, so he's a burnt toast piece.
Okay. That's kind of... Wow. That got dark, but I like it. I like where your head's at. Okay? Gary, what do you think it represents?
A tie-in to the Avengers and stuff.
Okay.
Because Stark Industries, and also at the time, showing them that they didn't develop just weapons.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That Stark Industries did more than just weaponry. Okay. My thought process was maybe this is Wanda's view on Iron Man, that all he is a glorified toaster oven. Like, really? Like, think about it. Like, isn't that what all Tony Stark is in that armor? He's glorified toaster oven. He creates heat in the form of lasers and rockets, and he throws it at his enemy.
Yeah, I could get that.
Think about it.
Yeah.
I could get that. Maybe it's the Human Torch and
Right.
recycled into a toaster.
Right, yeah. Maybe Tony Stark, grabbed the Human Torch and,
It could be a mention to the Avengers Initiative robot Human Torch.
Well, could be. Who knows? Yeah.
That's what I'm
What was
talking
that?
about.
Yeah, what was that called? Humanoid, right? I think was what he was
Oh,
called.
well, this is the Human Torch.
Was he Human Torch at that point? Okay. I thought he was a different name at that point. But
Yeah, I think it's Johnny Storm Human Torch for Fantastic Four.
So, what did you guys think of this first episode of WandaVision? I know this is their second time watching it, so it's kind of hard to talk about our first initial thoughts, but what did you guys think of this episode? Because there's not much more to say. We just went over the whole
Well, I'm not
episode.
going to rate it. I'm just going to say I didn't like it the first time and didn't like it the second time.
Okay. Austin, what did you think?
I'll be honest.
You can rate it if you want
If I were to rate it, I'm gonna rate it at a 5.
Okay.
It got weird, and maybe because I didn't watch enough 50 sitcoms and I don't understand it, but it felt forced. Like a lot of the comedy felt played out. Like you had the setup with the calendar, then you have even more of the setup because finally the results there, but they're not meshing because one person thinks it's one thing, one person thinks it's another, and the miscommunications. Here's the setup again. The payoff is her coming out in what would be scantily clad clothes for the 50s, and not seeing in what I would only equate as mid-dark that does not look like Vision from behind.
I get it.
And then the payoff when it's like, no, the heart meant this.
But, this is 1950s sitcom America. It's kind of how it worked back then. It was over the top. It was done over the top on purpose. Think about, I know you used to watch Ma and Pa Kettle with my dad. The comedy in that...
We watched Hee Haw with him. That
okay,
was about
Hee Haw, but the comedy in Hee Haw is way over the top, isn't it?
It felt
That's
like...
the style of comedy.
Now looking back on it, Hee Haw felt like a vaudeville show, so it didn't feel real. It felt like
it was a vaudeville show.
It was. Oh, okay.
It was like a 70s vaudeville style.
Well,
so you're kind of right in that regard.
I have intro to mass media on my side. Thank you, Mr. Sokoloff.
And I think my podcast was more like the 30s.
You might be right. It might be 30s and 40s.
Earlier.
Yeah, my first time watching this episode through, I was more slightly confused about what I was watching because I was like, I got that they were trying to merge 1950s sitcom TV, but I was trying to like, okay, why? Where are we going with this? And I was more annoyed that we didn't give any sort of. There were no clues in this one about where they were moving. I mean, yes, there was at the very end. We saw a sword. What was it? Logo on a book. And
On
I
a
think
book
that was
with
it.
the TV portion.
Right. So you kind of got that they were going somewhere, but I was kind of annoyed because in the very first episode they didn't do much to draw you in. They just gave you this weird show, and so that's why I would give this more of like a 4 out of 10, only because there's nothing to draw you in.
If you were to
It's kind of a shame because I thought the show got better as it went
I
on.
was gonna say, if you were to draw in, and I know we're gonna probably spoil this later, if you were to draw in the intro with Darcy from episode 3,
Yeah, or
And-
something,
and
along
had
that
the
line.
intro with episode 3 where you had Darcy and them find this town that's abandoned but it's there, and there's an anomaly going on, then you
I
transition
forget which
to
episode it is where the BD Wong character
yeah.
just walks off into the town and he disappears. If you'd have just had that at the beginning and then gone into the sitcom,
Yeah.
I might have been like, oh, where are
Now-
we going with this? Like, what are we
Now
trying
you
to
bite
imply?
me.
Right,
Now
like,
you got me.
but you did nothing to keep, I almost gave up by episode 2. I
But
really did.
By the time we got to when Darcy was introduced, she was watching the show. That episode was playing on the TV in the background.
Right, right.
So
The whole thing that I was confused at was there's no build up for a relationship really between the Vision and Wanda.
Right.
As far as where they were dating, love, or whatever, it was just
Like, even in the movies, you kind of got the impression they had a connection,
yeah, but
but
not,
never to this point.
right.
And I still feel like there's this gap, right, between her and him having that night in, I forget, it's Age of Ultron, where they're kind of like connecting with each other.
Yeah.
To this point, and this is supposed to fill the gap between then and going into Endgame and all that. And I kind of feel like, even while having watched the whole show, it has not done that. It didn't fill that gap.
Actually,
I still feel like there's a gap there.
Actually, it's completely after Endgame.
yeah, because
It is.
Because
we find out at the
Right.
end.
You're right.
because Vision's already
Ray's already made and all that, and
destroyed. In the
destroyed.
movie.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that gap's still there, and it's still prevalent, and it's still like no explanation how she got to be that
Now,
in love with Vision, like that strong.
And the other thing is in the movies she was not the Scarlet Witch.
Right.
No.
This is true.
No.
She was just Wanda
And there-
Maximoff.
There is one scene that saves it, and it's in Infinity War where they are on the run because Cap broke away from Iron Man and the Avengers and blah 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 blah. It's this one random scene that you see some of a connection, and that's it. And now we're supposed to jump into the show where we're supposed to believe
Right,
there's a connection.
Well, and it's
Okay,
this
t-
really strong connection.
Tell me
right?
what the connection is.
They're on the run. They're in
They're in a European
they're
city.
in a
that
European
she
city, and
runs
they get
into.
attacked by two of Thanos's
Minions.
minions.
Yeah.
But right before that, they're talking about how to get the stone out of his head because then they could go live possibly a normal life.
Right. That's the only connection
It's-
scene
it's-
that we see. And
it's
it was like
5
not even 2 minutes
I
long.
was
in
gonna
that
say it's
movie.
like less than 5 minutes of a film.
It had to be less than that because I don't even remember that whole part.
It was just long enough for them to say, "Hey, there's a connection between these two guys," and that's about it. You know, like
It was like it's
Not
a
even.
footnote. It's a
Yeah.
drop footnote, and now we're gonna try to build a connection on it. It doesn't.
And if you're somebody like my wife who didn't read the comics, you're kind of like, well, then how'd you jump from that to this? Like, how did she become this involved with a guy that she barely met? You know,
Well,
like,
Or a robot.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I've read the comics. I knew about all this going into this.
and I still didn't get
And I
it.
still didn't get
Right,
it.
exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
still didn't sell me on the idea.
So, like I said, there was not enough to draw you in. That was my big complaint.
Episode 1 was like dry.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Dry toast. That's what this was.
Hey, Stark Adventure.
There you go. From the Stark Avengers toaster.
Burnt.
Burnt toast, yes. So,
And poor fried chicken.
there's really not much else we have to say on this subject, and I knew we wouldn't have a lot. So, we'd love to hear from you. Did you feel the same way we did? Did you feel differently? Again, you can get a hold of us on you can get a hold of us on Gab, Facebook, Twitter. We are on Rumble. We are on YouTube. You can email us at galaxycast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you have to say about that. And that was our thoughts on the first episode of WandaVision. We'll cover the next episode of the Galaxy Cast. And as we like to always say here in the Star Production Studios, may the force be with those who listen.
To those who do it.
Okay. All right, that's it, Videoland. We're gonna cut it off, man. That's it. Have a good one. See you.